Hello, and welcome to this video about business model for the smart home sector. This video will talk about the results that we have from our research project that we have done together with a variety of companies in Denmark and their approach to smart homes. This video will touch upon 4 points. In order to talk about business model in the smart home sector, we will start just by talking a little bit about the business models for traditional organization, so what is normally called a pipe or a supply chain. Secondly, we will talk about the possibilities afforded by smart technologies in terms of business models. And that will lead us to our third point, that will be the alternatives to the pipe model for the smart home sector. And fourthly, we will talk about the challenges that we have seen organizations in our project face when moving towards this new business model, and what are possible solutions to overcome these challenges. In order to understand how new business models are afforded by smart technology, we need first to understand how business models work for traditional organizations. So now we are talking about the majority of organizations that are focused on selling a product. Now, if you are an organization that is focused on selling a product, you will typically be organized like a supply chain. The focus organization is an organization that either manufactures or assembles a product. They will source material from the suppliers, they will manufacture it, assemble it, package it, and sell it to wholesalers, where wholesalers will sell it to a retailer, which will then sell it to the final customer. Now, in this process, the focus organization, our manufacturer, our assembler, loses sight of who is the final customer. There is no way in this supply chain model for the organization to know who is the customer, and even though eventually they might get to know who is the customer, they will never know how the customer uses the product that they have bought. So in this traditional business models of the supply chain is focused on one single thing. It's focused on the transaction. When the product is sold, the product goes downstream and some money flow upstream. And this is the traditional business model as we know it. So in this traditional business model, the value is exactly created in the transaction. And whatever value is in the installed base of the product that we have sold is completely unknown. So if we take, for example, 2 light bulbs, this would be a traditional light bulb made by a giant in the light bulb industry, and this being a smart bulb made by another giant, but this time in a smart home industry. Well, if this product is sold, this product is manufactured, assembled, given to a wholesaler that gives it to a retailer, and then it comes to me as a customer. There is no way for the company that has manufactured this product to know how I use it, when I use it, if I use it, or if it just goes to the trash. And this is how it is. They have made the money on selling this product, and probably not even to me, they have made the money selling this product to a wholesaler. So we get to the discussion of what are the possibilities that are afforded by this new smart technology. And there is one element which is key difference in smart technologies respect to traditional technology. And it is exactly this idea of what do you know about how the customer uses your product? What are the habits of the customer? So let me take, so we have done the example of the light bulb before, but let me take another example which I think is really funny. So this that I have here is a traditional cooking thermometer. We have used it for a long time. It is from IKEA. I'm not getting paid for doing this. So this is a traditional cooking thermometer You take it, you stick it in the food, and well, it works, right? So IKEA has no idea, and they cannot have any idea about how I use it. The only way they could do this is if they send an ethnographer to our home that stays there, and this person is lucky enough to see the occasion in which we use this, how we use it, whether we like it or not, or whether it just constantly stays in our drawer. So let's see an alternative to this. This is maybe a funny thing, but this is a smart cooking thermometer. Again, I'm not getting paid for this. So this basically it has a major difference. It works a little bit exactly the same. It is wireless, but this is a minor improvement. This part goes into the food. This part receives the message, is also the charger, and all of these will not actually make any difference. What is the main difference between this cooking thermometer and the traditional one is that this one is connected to an app. So the producer of this smart cooking thermometer, they have a possibility, given by the fact that this is a smart technology, to actually see through the app how I use it, how often I use it, to what purposes, what I like to eat, at what time I like to eat, and so on and so forth. And they have this information every time that I use this product. They even have maybe information for the time that I don't use this product. And this product provides a series of advantages to me as a customer, because in the companion app they have recipes, but it also provides an advantage to them, because when I'm finished cooking with this, they also ask me whether I'm satisfied with the recipe, whether something should be improved, and so on and so forth. And I could see, because we actually use this a lot, that over time their instruction for example, where to place the thermometer and so on, they have improved. So in this way, they have a very cheap, very easy access to information from the customer. And it would be possible for them to then integrate this type of technology with a lot of other technologies that we begin to have in our kitchens. Now, another technology which I think is interesting to discuss is the appearance. Now we begin to see the appearance of smart oven. We happen to have one. We didn't know that it was smart. It was not sold to us as a smart oven, but it is. And we discovered that basically what we can do is to have information about the temperature and have information about when the cooking is done, and basically that's it. Now, we could imagine an alternative scenario where the smart oven would, for example, be connected to some, let's say, cooking show, or be connected to some famous cook that has a TV channel or something like this, or maybe just be connected to their research and development group. And then we could imagine that new recipes could be uploaded in the oven, so that in the evening, a famous chef presents a recipe. The day after, I actually have that recipe in my oven. This could be extremely funny and useful for private consumers. It could even be much more interesting for restaurants that have chains, where they could take recipes and put it in a server and then broadcast to all the ovens that they have in the restaurant chain. So we can appreciate the difference between a standard oven that does nothing, a smart oven that collects data but actually does not provide a solution to me as a customer, to a really smart oven that not only collects the data but also provides a solution for me as a customer, and also provides solution, for example, in the B2B market. So here we have 3 examples of oven that afford 3 different business models. The first one would be the business model where the oven is sold for a specific amount of money, and that's the transaction. In the second, the oven is still sold and the money is made on the transaction, but the oven allows to collect data. In the last case, the service of providing recipes, of providing a server for sharing recipes, and so on and so forth, could be monetized. You know, it might be not an expensive service, but you can still monetize the fact that you have an installed base. And so you see how we move from a business model that has cash flows connected to the transaction to a business model that has cash flows connected to the transaction and the installed base of the product. This brings us to the discussion of what are the alternatives to the supply chain business model. As we have a framework that you can see in the slide, where the organization can organize itself along this dimension of knowledge of the customer and structure of the business. And this framework can help us to define the different business models that we can, the different alternatives to the supply chain business model that we can choose. If we move up in the framework, we go from selling product to selling the product to going up servicing life events of the customer. So in a business model that services the life events of the customer, basically makes it possible to create a relationship with the customer, so that instead of try to maximize the value of the single transaction, we maximize the value generated by the collaboration with the customer over a long period of time. So this would be the first alternative, is to generate cash flows through life events. The other alternative would be to move towards becoming a modular producer. So now we are not trying to sell the product anymore, but we are trying to sell a component in an ecosystem of products. And also in this case, what we will try to do is to maximize our relationship, not so much with the customer, but with the company that is managing the ecosystem. The third way to move away from the supplier model is to move into the ecosystem driver. And if we move into the ecosystem driver, what we are talking about is orchestrating the components that come from different sources and addressing life events. So if we are an ecosystem driver, then we try at the same time to maximize the cash flows from our relation to the customer, but we don't provide all the service to the customer by ourselves. We orchestrate different organizations, different products to support these life events. And this is an example that is known to the most is Amazon. Amazon tries to keep the customer engaged over a long period of time by constantly providing services that magically match the needs of the customer, but there is nothing magic there. This is smarter technologies that continuously classify and reclassify customers, so that Amazon is always able to provide magically the best service at the best moment in time. If we go back now to the smart home sector, we can think about what kind of products do we find in this sector. And for the most part, we can categorize the products in two major blocks. The one that I showed you so far, like the thermometer and the bulb, they are in the area of do-it-yourself, the DIY area. So you buy them, you screw the light bulb, or you just stick the thermometer in the food, and this is easy to use. But the other large category is the product like the one I have here that require somebody to install it for you. They do sell it as if it was a do-it-yourself product, but the reality is that something like a radiator thermostat requires some more knowledge, requires the understanding on whether you can touch the thermostat that you already have there, and so on and so forth. So a product like this requires an installer. During our research in the Smart Home project, we have talked with a lot of installers that have pointed out both the advantages of these technologies, but also some of the limitation. And the major problem, which is a completely understandable problem, is the responsibility. Who is responsible in an ecosystem for a product that is installed and then for some reason stops working? And this concern with the responsibility and warranty is a major stop block for all the products that either require an installer or would work much better if they were done by an installer. So we come to the last segment of this video where we talk about what should we do to avoid this problem, and especially for the large part of smart home technologies that would require an installer. The problem is in aligning the interests between the focal organizations that produce the smart technology and the installer that needs to feel safe in installing these technologies and cannot feel the responsibility of having to solve the problem if something should go wrong, because admittedly it's difficult to understand where things that have gone wrong have gone wrong. So what could be the different actions that we can imagine? First of all, one action that could be taken from the side of the focal organization, so the producer of these technologies, could be vertical integration, right? They could create their own installer squad, and when the customer buys the product, if the customer wants, they could deploy their own installer squad to install the product, thereby basically taking themselves the responsibility that everything works. The second activities that could be done could be to integrate, so for the focal organization, would be to create an ecosystem where the installers are integrated. And in that ecosystem, you could establish the mechanisms that govern the maintenance of these technologies. Then there is a third point that could be for installers to have the right competencies. So digital competencies of installing and understanding an ecosystem of smart technologies are not the typical competencies that an installer has, but the focal company, the producers of this type of technologies, could or maybe should organize training, organize training both for skills and for work procedures, so that the installers feel at ease with installing these technologies. Obviously, the installers could also select a specific part of their workforce to be specialized in this direction. Finally, there is the legal aspect of this. As it is now, the legal, this is what we hear both from the companies in the project, but also with the legal companies we have talked to. There is an important legal aspect in the responsibility of who is responsible for what if things go wrong. And as it is the situation now, only the big players have access to this type of legal support. And if it is in the interest of the big players that the installers are on board, then they should develop contracts that are simple and easy to understand, so that an installer can feel safe in installing this type of products. So these four are the hurdles that should be overcome and can be overcome in order to move from the supply business model to a business model that takes advantage of all these nice characteristics of smart home products. So, to conclude, and summarizing the areas of interest for new business models, so one would be to move from pipe or supply chain to an ecosystem. The second would be to move from selling product to selling services. The third one would be to move from selling a product once to servicing a long-term relation with the customer. And this last one basically means that sometimes, in order to win in the long run, you have to lose a little bit in the short run.